Good day, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Factoring Using the Greatest Common Factor. So let's dive right into it. Today we're going to be factoring using the GCF, as we call it. Now remember, the greatest common factor simply refers to what is the largest number that will divide into both, in this case, 32 and 24. Now, if you've forgotten how to do this, I will be most happy to link some tutorial videos in the description, but for now, suffice it to say that the biggest number that will go into 32 and 24 is going to be 8. Now, what do we do with that 8? Well, we pull the 8 out, we factor it out, and we ask ourselves, 8 times the quantity, what plus what is going to give me this same expression? So we're representing this using the distributive property. So let's take it a piece at a time. 8 times what is 32? Well, I know that 8 times 4 is 32. So I'm going to put a 4 there, and because there's a letter A there, I'm going to drop it down right there. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. 8 times what is 24? Well, I know that 8 times 3 is 24. So I'm going to put my 3 there. And because I got a B here, I'm going to drop a B down right there. Now, just because I'm paranoid, I always like to double check my work. So let's do it. Is it true that 8 times 4A gives me 32 A's? Yes, that is absolutely true. Okay, and is it true that 8 times 3B gives me 24 B's? And yes, that is absolutely true. So I have successfully represented this using the distributive property. So let's look at a couple more examples just to drive this home. Now, what if I have something that looks like this? Well, I'm still going to begin with the GCF. Now, see if you can figure it out before me. What is the biggest number that will go into 18 and 42? And if you said 6, you are absolutely correct. So what do we do with the 6? Well, we go ahead and factor out that 6. And we ask ourselves, 6 times what? 6 times the quantity, what plus what will give me this same expression? Okay, let's take it a piece at a time. 6 times what is 18? Well, I know that 6 times 3 is 18, so I'm going to put my 3 right there. And don't forget about that there X. Drop it down right there. Okay. Now let's do the same thing over here. 6 times what is going to be 42? Well, I know that 6 times 7 is 42. And because there's a Y there, we got to drop it down right there. Now, because I'm paranoid, let's double check. Is it true that 6 times 3x gives me 18 x's? Yes, it absolutely is true. And then let me erase this so I got some room. Is it true that 6 times 7y gives me 42 y's? And it turns out that it totally does. So we are in good shape. Let's try another one. How about this bad boy? Once again, we begin with the greatest common factor. Do you happen to know what the biggest number is that will go into 45 as well as 30? If you said 15, you are absolutely correct. So what do we do with the 15? Well, we take it out. We factor it out, and we ask ourselves, 15 times the quantity what minus what gives us this same value, this expression. Okay, so let's dive right into it. 15 times what is 45? Well, we know that 15 times 3 is 45. So we put a 3 there, and because there's an M there, we drop the M down right here. Same thing over here. 15 times what is 30? Well, I know that 15 times 2 is 30. And because there's an N there, we got to drop the N down right there. Okay, now, very important to double check yourself. Is it true that 15 times 3m will give us 45 m's? Absolutely true. Is it true that 15 times 2n will give us 30 n's? And that's absolutely true as well. So it looks like we are in good shape. Let's try another one. Beginning, as always, with the greatest common factor. Do you happen to know what the greatest common factor of 56 and 14 happens to be? Well, if you do, you're very intelligent because I had to figure this out ahead of time. Turns out that the greatest common factor is going to be 14. Now, we take out our 14 and we simply ask ourselves, 14 times the quantity, what plus what gives us this value or this expression? Okay, piece at a time, like always. 14 times what is 56? And if you don't happen to know, you can simply divide 56 by 14. And if you do that, you'll find that the answer is 4, which means that 14 times 4 is 56. Now, as always, don't forget about our variable. Bring it down right next to it. And let's do the same thing over here. 14 times what is 14q? Well, it's basically 14 times 1. And we know that 1q is the same as just a q. Because check it out. 14 times 4p does in fact give us 56 p's. And 14 times q does give us 14 q's. So it looks like we're in good shape. All right, let's try another one. Boom. How about this guy right here? Do you happen to know the GCF right off the bat of those there coefficients? What is the biggest number that goes into 27 as well as 63? And if you said 9, you're absolutely correct. So, what do we do with the 9? The same thing we have always done. We factor out the 9 and we ask ourselves, 9 times the quantity what minus what gives us this same expression, this same value. Okay, piece at a time. 9 times what is 27? Well, it turns out that 9 times 3 is 27. And we, of course, need to drop down our A. Put that right next to it. Okay, and then 9 times what is 63? Well, we know that 9 times 7 is 63. And don't forget about the variable, drop it down right next to it. Okay, because I'm paranoid, I'm going to double check. Paranoid or smart, let's say a little of both. 9 times 3a does in fact give me 27 a's. And 9 times 7 b's does in fact give me 63 b's. So it looks like we have done it correct. Now, let's keep going. Let's do some more, and maybe you can pause the video and try some of these ahead of time. Beginning with the GCF, what is the greatest common factor of 72 and 48? And if you said 24, you are absolutely correct. So what do we do with the 24? Well, we pull the 24 out. And we say 24 times the quantity something plus something. All right, so let's take it a piece at a time. 24 times what is 72? Well, it turns out that 24 times 3 is 72. And because there's an x right there, we got to drop down our x right there. Now, 24 times what is 48? Well, we know that 24 times 48 is 2. So we'll put our 2 right there. Now, let's double check ourselves. Is it true that 24 times 3 x's gives us 72 x's? Yes, it's totally true. Is it true that 24 times 2 gives us 48? Yes, it's totally true. Woo! Well, that means we done did it, y'all. Okay, let's try another one. Let's try another one. Do you know the GCF of this? So we got the greatest common factor of 90 and 36. Well, we know that the greatest common factor of 90 and 36 is 18. Correct. So, as always, we're going to pull out our 18, and we're going to ask ourselves 18 times what minus what will give us this same here value, expression. Okay, piece at a time. 18 times what is 90? Well, we know that 18 times 5 is 90. And there's no variable to pull down, so we're in good shape. And then 18 times what is 36? We know that 18 times 2 is 36. And there is an R, so don't leave that R lonely. Go ahead and pull them down and put them right there. And bada bing, bada boom, you got a broom. Let's double check ourselves. Is it true that 18 times 5 is 90? Yes, it's totally true. Is it true that 18 times 2R gives us 36 R's? Yes, it's totally true. Well then, my friends, try not to erase the stuff, but then you're in good shape. Okay, should we try just a few more, maybe 2? Let's try 2 more and see where we're at. Beginning once again with the greatest common factor. What is the biggest number that will go into 64 and 40? Turns out that it's the ever popular 8. So we pull out our 8 and we simply ask ourselves, 8 times the quantity, what plus what will give us this same expression? Okay, so piece at a time. 8 times what is 64? 8 times 8 fell on the floor, picked it up, and it was 64. So 8 times 8 is 64. But don't forget about that M. Drop it down right next to that 8. And then 8 times what is 40? Well, it turns out that 8 times 5 is 40. And don't forget about the N. Drop the N down there. Now, double checking ourselves like always. Is it true that 8 times 8 M's gives us 64 M's? Yes, that's totally true. Is it true that 8 times 5N gives us 40 N's? Yes, it's totally true. Hallelujah. Okay. And there you have it, friends. 1 more, 2 more, I don't know how many more. Let's do this one real quick and call it. So we're beginning with the greatest common factor. And do you happen to know what the biggest number is that will go into 54 and 18? And if you said 18, you are absolutely correct. Yep, it's 18. What do we do with the 18? The same thing we always do. We pull out the 18 and we ask ourselves, 18 times the quantity what minus what will give us that same expression? Well, let's take it a piece at a time. 18 times what is 54? Well, I know that 18 times 3 is 54, so I'm going to put my 3 right there. But don't forget about that Y. Drop it down. It's part of the family. And now, I have to ask myself, 18 times what is 18? Well, we know that 18 times 1 is 18. So, let's put a 1 right there. Da, 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 da. I guess I shouldn't do fireworks yet because we got to make sure that we are correct. So, is it true that 18 times 3y gives us 54 y's? Yes, it's totally true. And is it true that 18 times 1 is 18? Yes, it's totally true. Well then, folks, I think we're good to go. I do hope this video was helpful to you on your test or your assignment or anything else. If you did like it, feel free to share with your friends, your teacher friends, or whoever. Do you guys have friends? I'm just kidding. We all got friends. Ain't nobody alone. Anyways, have a good one. Good luck.